Hey, Alex. Hey, Matt.
How's it
Thank you.
going?
Well, it's great. And I am so excited to have Matt here today to talk about how Emprise Bank is using AI. Before we get into this conversation, though, I wanted to know what is your favorite book, TV show, or movie that depicts AI that you enjoy that depiction the most, and why do you like it? Alex, what's your favorite?
Oh my gosh. I should have prepped for this. I didn't. Matt, I'm going to kick this one to you.
You work in AI. How do you not have a favorite?
I know.
Well, Kiah and Alex, great to be here. Thanks for having me today. I am not much of a TV or a movie watcher.
Okay.
I probably go back. Maybe I'm dating myself here. I'd probably go back to my childhood and Terminator.
Okay.
Nice.
Skynet. Now, what I would say is that's not my view on AI. I'm actually
Sure.
much more of an optimist.
Yeah.
I mean, I worry about data quality and I worry about model drift and like when are we going to get Fable 5 back? Like I worry about those things, but
Yeah.
no, I'm probably more of an optimist around it.
It's an iconic depiction of AI.
But
And I
it,
think,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Also, AI is a threat in popular media, like an ominous thing we have to resist. I think maybe informs some people's hesitancy or caution around AI today, right? Like, how can we imagine a different thing than Skynet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I mean, that has been a theme in the media for I don't know when Terminator came out, but it's been a while,
Yeah.
right? And so I think there is some just some buildup around that it's
Right.
hard to work through at times.
Mine was there's it's more modern but still ominous. I liked Ex Machina, which was a 2014 movie
Yeah.
with a robot named Ava, like a humanoid robot, and I wasn't sure if robots count as AI. I think they have to, but if we wanted to be very pure about this, and I like the whole movie's very tight. It's we love a tech founder getting his comeuppance in the end. I
Hey.
also, in the film, she has like, sorry, we love a male tech founder. Is that better?
Perfect. Approved. No,
um,
I'm just kidding.
she has like a clear midsection, and that was like some real movie magic for me to watch it and be like, wow, how did they like do that? That looks really good. So
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a while, but I do recall being like, yeah, go AI. I was cheering the AI. I think that was the most important
Nice.
thing. Alex, I mean, you're in AI all the time. Do you not have like a goals AI or your favorite personality?
It's terrible that I don't. I mean, you could go back to like the Star Wars franchise and see where and how
Sure.
like
Yeah.
a happy colleague or like a friendly colleague helps you. I think that, if you're looking at
Yes.
Skynet is terrible and like R2D2 is great, that's probably the two poles that we're looking at here. And I would say when I'm chatting with bankers, I don't know if this is something you feel as well, Matt, but when I chat with bankers, I feel like sometimes I have to reassure them that we're not going the Skynet route, but that we have opportunity to go the like friendly colleague route. But there's a lot of noise in the market. And I think that fear and that apprehension is still quite strong.
Alex, I would agree. I think the banking industry suffers from a pretty negative view on AI, just given a lot of the risk, the
Hmm.
governance, the
Hmm.
regulatory environment. I'm hopeful that we can help change that a little bit today.
Heck yeah.
Well, actually, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Emprise Bank, and if you want to allude to the AI journey you guys have been on.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Kia. Well, I consider myself a little bit of an accidental banker. I grew up in a banking family, but the first 20 years of my career I spent in M&A advisory work. So I was in New York, um, working on mergers and acquisitions, largely in the technology and telecom space. And so I didn't really get back into the commercial banking space until about 10 years ago. And 8.5 years ago, I stepped into the leadership role of Emprise Bank and really had two key priorities that really hold true through today. One was really around modernization. And so think customer experience. Uh, Early on, that was digital channels. That's now AI and personalization and everything. And then very much related, but a little bit separate is growth and
Mm.
how do we grow our franchise? And again, initially that was growth markets. Today, that's embedded banking and whatever is next on the AI frontier.
And then how did you guys, it sounds like you've shifted how you do what you want to do over time. How has AI kind of altered, enabled, fueled that?
Yeah. Well, I will say when I stepped into leadership in 2018, I didn't know anything about AI, and the company didn't know anything about AI. So it has definitely been a journey. I relatively quickly hired a data scientist. I said, Jamil, I don't know what I need to know. Like, will you just come start walking around the organization, help me learn what I need to know, and then help the organization begin to lean in. I said, I know it's important, but I don't really know how or where. And so it really started with one hire. And by 2021, we'd launched our first ML model. And it just has continued
Nice.
to build from there, right? And so we think about where we can deploy it in meaningful places within the company. And today, obviously, it's extended beyond ML to AI and Gen AI and agents, and so now it looks like several layers of different capabilities spread across the company in different places. But we certainly see it as both a tool that can be very, very helpful from an efficiency and a risk management perspective. But also, more and more, we see it as um, an ability to drive personalization, customer experience, growth opportunities. And so, really looking at it as a way to ensure we have strategic flexibility and freedom as we move forward.
Matt, you were talking about that first ML project in 21. How did you think about where you were going to apply the technology? Because I think you're very, very thoughtful about where tech can solve problems. And I'm really curious how you identified those areas that you wanted to apply technology to.
So, Alex, the first thing we said is we're not our first model is not going to be customer facing, right? I mean, that's nor is it going to be a true model from the perspective of making automated decisions. How can it be a support and a supplement to what we're already doing? So that's one element of it. The second was then, of course, trying to identify places in the company where we felt like we could have um, uh, some impact, both in terms of helping our people, but also really learning about more of the capabilities. And so the two initial projects that I remember, and I'm sorry, I don't know which one actually went first, but we had two early models. Um, One was around small business credit underwriting, and so I think that's a pretty normal, natural go-to. You have a lot of data. It's something we do a lot of, and we created a scoring system that
Mm.
was meant to accelerate our underwriters' decisions, not replace them.
Nice.
And right, so it could walk alongside and learn, and help accelerate, especially the ends of the barbell, right? The ones that are easier yeses or nos. How do we get to those answers quicker? And then the second one was a product recommendation engine. So how could we help our bankers know how to advise their customers better?
Mm.
And really leverage the experience that we have with our customers in a more meaningful way. And again, that was not an automated, somehow we're all of a sudden in our customers' faces with this. it was an alert to our bankers to be able to help them kind of navigate some of those conversations. Now, obviously, the technology and the capabilities have come a long way since then, but those were the early kind of thought experiments.
What is the most exciting or promising application you guys are working on today, and, kind of evolving from those 2 early, applications?
Well, fabulous question. I don't know where to start. I get so excited about some of the ways that we think we can use the technology. Let me start with one that just went into production over the last couple of months, and then I'll
Yeah.
talk about one that we're just on the front end of. Um, we recently um, put into place what we call a health score for our commercial customers. And the interesting thing to me is we have monitored credit for a long, long time on tax returns and internally prepared financials. And there is such a lag to that information. And we actually have real time data on our customers. And so to me, those two things were a little bit at odds with each other. And so we, in an effort to not only help us, but also be able to help our customers, we've built what we call a health score that our bankers can look at. And there's some trending in there too, right? It's not just what's the absolute number; it's what direction is it trending, and that helps us think about: are there opportunities to extend more credit? Are there opportunities for us to go have conversations with our customers, right, around things that may be happening in their business that we can identify much, much quicker than we could have otherwise? Um, and so we get really excited about the implications, the benefits that that has to all parties. The other piece of it, I don't want to say it was unintentional, um, because we thought about it through the process, but it also very much has an efficiency element to it where
Yeah.
uh, I mean, we do, as you all are familiar, we do annual reviews on every single credit. There's a huge manual element to that. Well, if we see strong health scores on real time information, that greatly minimizes how we think about those annual reviews, and we can actually have a daily, a real time view on it, not just a once a year. And so there will be some fairly meaningful efficiency gains there, which will allow our folks to really focus on the credits they need to focus on, and not just the rote work of preparing um, annual reviews for credits that are very healthy. Right. So
Yeah.
I think everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah, it's
So that went into
oh, yeah.
production at the beginning of the year. We're starting to see benefits from that. So that's one I feel really, really good about.
It's the promise of that real-time data, that we've been told, will alleviate, a lot of these annual reviews. It'll be a lot faster, especially, if we have like a credit cycle. And it's so interesting to be like, yeah, we were able to like have that go into place. It will, and then to think like how it changes the work of employees too, right? And you can have maybe greater confidence also in your conclusions because you've had different data sources that align both with the backward review and the real-time data, right?
You're absolutely right. And what I get excited about, I get excited about a lot around this. I mean, the efficiency gains are helpful. They're nice. To me, those are a little bit table stakes. It's really being able to better organize around having your people focus on, uh, I'll say, the more unique opportunities. Those may be challenges, those may be opportunities, but where are there um, situations that really require the thought and the judgment of our people,
Mhm.
and how do we free them up to be able to have the time and the space to go lean into those.
Yeah.
That is fantastic, Matt.
So you want to hear the new use case that we're building?
Go for it.
Um, I clearly get excited about what I think we can drive with some of this, but um, So it's in the same space, meaning the commercial lending is our first use case, but we think it has much broader application. The idea, the concept, is how do we centralize the intelligence and the know-how that we have across the company? We have it in unique systems, spread out, siloed. We have it in people's heads and kind of experience level, kind of all across the company. How do we centralize that, wrap an intelligence layer on it, and then allow our people to leverage that in real time whenever they're in front of a client, whenever they're thinking about kind of the next opportunity. So it's almost like codifying judgment
Mm.
and intelligence within one system that is available to our people, is available to agents, and so we're very early on that journey, but that's the vision. We are starting in the commercial credit decisioning space. So think about, how do we pull together all the information that we have around a decision on commercial credit? How do we codify it, wrap intelligence around it, and then begin to learn from that? So the end result would be um, much quicker decision making, better decision making, and the ability then for our bankers to be able to deliver, again, much quicker with much higher levels of certainty to their prospects and customers, which is fantastic, right? Um, the and what we have observed, we have credit files on each deal, right? So there's a lot of information. There's not
Mhm.
as much as you would think about the actual decision making process around it. And Alex, you're deep in this. You will identify with this, I think. So what we're trying to capture, what are the conversations? What are the what journey did that credit take? Off meaning often. Um, it will have pivots through the course of the process. So it may start with a structure that looks like something, and it may ebb and flow and change and adjust as we learn more, and as the borrower kind of works through the process. So trying to capture that whole journey, as well as, again, kind of the conversations, and not just in credit committee, but what did the preview look like? What was the conversation that the banker had with our chief credit officer, at the very beginning, just to have what we call a temp check on, is this something we may be interested in? So capturing all of that and wrapping some intelligence around it.
That is
But again,
fantastic.
we think that then has applicability across decision making across the company, right? That's our first place to use it, but we think we can then pull it horizontally across the company.
Oh, yeah, that totally sounds like something Alex would be into, right?
It is like the big goal, I feel like, of a lot of, and Matt, you're leading this charge, and I'm so happy you're sharing this, because I think it's one of those like really big, like very difficult to achieve goals that we're seeing across the space right now. First of all, that first use case you shared about annual reviews, I think that's an amazing example of a place where you're essentially using AI and agentic to improve rigor, like safety and soundness, actually, not just efficiency. How can we layer in these views earlier of risk, right? Like, to quote the great Jason Henricks, he was like, it's very easy to lend quickly. It's very hard to get paid back by, small business and commercial customers. And essentially what you've said is, what if we looked differently, using different information and different processes sooner at those indications of risk? And that's a perfect use case. And then that second one, I think what you're alluding to there is essentially you guys are trying to build out the context, like the context layer in the cake that is like successful agentic processes, which is, if you don't capture how decisions are made, then how can you expect agents to be able to replicate or make those decisions with the right information, the right memory that the bank has of why we do deals a certain way, or why we approve or don't approve things, or what considerations we have? And that is so hard to do. I'm sure you guys are deep in the technical implications of that. But that is leading edge work right now. So I applaud you for what you guys are doing there.
Well, we're having fun with it, and I agree with you, Alex. There may be a couple of elements there. One is the layer that you referenced. There's also work to ensure that we have the data in the right
Mm.
places, that's accessible to agents, that's not spread across many different systems. But how do we really pull it together so that it's in one place and is susceptible to agents, to AI, to our people. So multiple kind of work streams there, but all leading to the same place.
Well, Matt, I had a question that was kind of like a nuts and bolts question, which I'm sure when you talk to your fellow peer bankers and executives, everyone's kind of like, yeah, yeah, the use case. But I think there's a question about like how to do this, like the DIY element of it. So, what can you share about the investments Emprise has needed to make in order to implement this? And like, how did you guys decide where to make these investments? I know there's probably 1,000 pitches you're receiving. How did you pick like a generative model? Like, are you guys a cloud shop, an open AI shop, the way we used to talk about the cloud providers, you know?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot in that question. So let me ramble a little bit, and then please follow on or take it kind of wherever you'd like to go. One, I will tell you, I am not the technical person. And thankfully, we have a team of those folks that are incredibly capable and have led us through this journey and will continue to in a really, really, um, I think, thoughtful and powerful way. I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn, and you talked about investments. I think one of the learnings that we've had is just sure there's a technical component here. There's also very much a cultural component here, and so we've worked.
That's so real
Uh,
you said that.
I mean, so you have to work both in
Yeah.
in parallel, right? And so we've invested a lot in kind of bringing our people along, right? So that's training, that's spending time. We did a thing. I say our team did a great thing. I call it a road show. They
Nice.
went around to each department to try and really have a tech meets business conversation with each department. The initial idea was, how do you build a list of potential use cases to go deploy the technology? But I think what we learned is it had as much cultural impact as anything, because it helped our business units uh, really understand the capabilities and what
Yeah.
we could go do together, meaning matching the business with the technology. And so that was a really, really valuable exercise. And that was we had two of our technologists that also were skilled in business kind of go lead that tour. And that was really a valuable exercise. I say obviously we've um, had training available to all of our folks. So anybody has access to training that wants to continue to learn about things like um, prompting. What information can I put into systems and what can't I? All of the not only capability but also safety and soundness elements, which we obviously think are incredibly important.
Yeah.
We wrap the governance around it, right? So some of that is policy procedure and committees. Some of that is actually technology enforced, right? So we have a data loss prevention capability,
Nice.
right? So the guardrails are really important, and the more guardrails, the better to some degree, right? So you want the way I think about it is you want to tackle it from more than one perspective. Um, and then what we did um, is then once we had some of that framework in place, then we opened it up, and our folks can go now can go engage with any model they want to that's available. Um, so we have not gone all in on Claude or Chat GPT or any, and what we find is our folks find all sorts of different models. And so I was talking with one of our product guys, and he found a model that was highly tuned towards product and product development, right? So that's that's not one that we would have somehow, engaged with and signed up an enterprise license with, but he found it and he's using it for what he needs in his role and his capabilities. We also obviously have Copilot available to a pretty wide number of folks. Anyway, I don't know if I covered your question entirely, but that's a little bit of how we've thought about it.
That's so cool.
It was funny how I asked about investment, and when I was thinking about the answer to this question, I figured uh tools and then dollars. And I love how you brought in also governance and training, which I feel like is when we have these, big technologies, I think sometimes we can kind of look at the technology as if it will change all of us or, everyone in the
Yeah.
bank. And, I think that if you really want it to be widespread and you really want to signal, how do we use this tool? There's got to be kind of a lot of communication and signaling around from management around like the governance. Here's the acceptable use, unacceptable use. Here's what we've done to put safeguards in place, but also we trust you. And I think that's important. And then also to say culturally, like, we're going to sit side by side and kind of explain it. And we're not going to hopefully force it on you. We want you to think about it really creatively, and you're the expert in your job. And so we just want to kind of empower you to do that work better or faster, or on those easy yeses, get there faster, things like that. And so I think that was interesting how you like morphed my question into this very expansive answer.
Well, I'll go back to the very beginning of our conversation around the Terminator and some of the narrative that's been built up over time around AI. And we really want to change that, and we want to empower our people to use it. We believe we need to use it to be efficient, to get to better answers, to serve our customers better. I also have the philosophy that um, it I'll compare it to the wave a while ago of innovation, and people would set up innovation hubs or have a head of innovation. And um, my view is the leaders of the company need to lead in what's important. And so
Hmm.
we needed to lead as a leadership team in innovation. We need to lead um, as a leadership team around AI and how we go use that. We need our team that is experts in it, but we have to demonstrate how to use that
Yes.
and the expectations that we have. And so I think it's critical that I use it and talk about it, that my team uses it
Yeah.
and talks about it, encourages it. Um, and so that's I think an important element of that, of continuing to move the culture and the organization in that direction.
Matt, I love that answer so much because it demonstrates that as a leader, you invest so much in the effort, right? It's not just, cool, here's this line item on the budget, it's AI, everyone go figure it out, but you're really demonstrating that through action. And so I feel like a lot of leaders, whenever you put in place a kind of objective or a mandate or an initiative, you have a view of how it might go. And then in practice, you get surprised by things and the way they evolve. So how through this work, what has surprised you? What have you learned that you didn't expect? What opportunities have surfaced that you didn't even think would be possible through this investment?
Well, I would say, Alex, we've been talking about this, but I think one of the most fundamental learnings is it's not just a technology solution. It really is a cultural shift, and it's a
Yes.
transformation in terms of how we think about doing work. And that was not necessarily obvious or apparent to me at the beginning. It is very clear and apparent to me now, and so that's probably one of the biggest learnings. I think one of the other things that I think about too is um, building to where the models are going.
Mm,
And we've now had enough of these, what I will say, um, step function changes in model capability that don't architect a project for how the model is today. It is the worst it will ever be today. So think about what that what that process or whatever you may be using it for. Think about, 2 or 3 generations of the model from now.
hmm
What will you want it to do? And I guess maybe the more practical way of saying that is, as I'm using it today, there are a lot of things that maybe 6 or 12 months ago I could get 50% of the way there. Today I can get 80% of the way there. Like, don't give up.
hmm
Don't think that it's not capable. Keep building and Fable 5 or whatever the next generation is, like it'll get 95% of the way there, right? Like we keep closing the gap. It's not 100% solution. It's how do we just continue to get to lean in more and more into the capabilities, and those are, as we all see, changing really, really rapidly.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges I observe with some of the processes in banking and the way that technology is leveraged is that tension you just highlighted of the model and how it works today is the worst it'll ever be. In 3 months, in 6 months, it's going to do that 80,
Yeah.
90% job. It's so cool. And also, technology procurement cycles and regulatory requirements and all of that do not work in 3-month cycles. They work in annual cycles, being
Yeah,
generous.
yeah.
And so that is such a tough friction to reconcile as well. So I love your perspective there and I agree, but I also think it's asking of the entire industry to work differently. And that is really hard too. Yeah.
Yes, and I one last comment on the last question before I move to this one, but I I do I do see that when a model is 80% and it doesn't get it all the way done, that provides a really easy excuse to then disengage and go back to doing it the old way. And I think as leaders, we have to continue to push through that because no one is perfect, right? The model's not perfect. We're not perfect as humans. Like we have to work through that and continue to push the organization to take more and more advantage of the capabilities that are out there today. As you think about the regulatory environment, which I think is where you were going next, um, to your point, I don't know that the regulatory cycles move quite as quickly as the technology is moving today. I'm not sure anyone is moving as quickly as the technology is today.
Right.
hmm
Um, our approach has very much been. I mean, obviously, we've talked about grounding in safety and soundness, putting the right governance in place, leaning in then to using artificial intelligence. And again, that can be anything from ML all the way to Gen AI and agents, right? So there's a broad spectrum. Documenting that well and thinking about it from I'll call it a risk adjusted perspective, um, where there are certain applications or uses where you're going to be far more controlled than you may be in other uses, right? So really basing how we think about it around, well, what's the risk profile of that use case or that deployment? Um, And then I'll come back to what I said and documenting all of that very, very well. There was, as you both know, some guidance that came out in April, the interagency guidance. I am hopeful that is, as I read that, it continued to be consistent with some of the messaging coming out of the agencies around more risk oriented uh, oversight in general. And I am hopeful that we'll continue down the path of this being more risk based than yes or no.
Yeah.
The final thing I will say on it is I thought it was interesting how they pulled out the Gen AI from the old model risk management. I know there's more coming from them. I think, in theory, more coming from the regulatory agencies around some of that. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they tackle the Gen AI challenge.
Yeah.
Um, from what I understand, that's not from the very little that I understand. We're not going to be able to do model risk management um, in the traditional way on LLMs. We can't go validate and verify the model. And so what we've been starting to talk about, and I'm actually stealing this from a little bit from a gentleman that is really on the forefront around some of this thinking, but um, thinking about the Gen AI really more as an operational risk than a model risk. So
Mm.
what I mean by that is um, we have a whole lot of employees that are making decisions each and every day that are really important for the company. We don't model risk manage them. We don't understand exactly how they got to each and every decision. But what we have are frameworks that help steer and then provide oversight around those decisions. And I think we can do a similar thing in the Gen AI world, where if you have an agent that's making a decision, well, you'll have an oversight agent and you'll have guardrails around how they make those decisions, and you'll have an audit agent, right? So we'll start to put some of the same operational frameworks around it that we would see in a more traditional organizational structure.
Perfectly said. I love that.
It'll be interesting to see if I don't know if the regulator would like come out and be like, that's how everyone should do it. But like, I think what's useful is you're thinking about this thing. I know. Right. The regulator would never. But how you're thinking about the thing, and you're shifting how, it's again that like, how do I think about an agent and model risk management the way I have been trained in it, or the way it's currently practiced, doesn't serve me. But there's actually other things in the bank that where we manage this type of risk, it just isn't manifested by an AI agent. It is how our employees conduct business. And we do have frameworks, and kind of just even saying like, what do we have that's useful here? It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Matt, you and I talked about how I think a lot about AI and with bankers is like, well, what if I mess up? And you're almost assuredly you're going to try to there's going to be mistakes, and you're going to have to manage that downside. So you're going to have to pick really specific use cases. But also, what do you have that's available and useful that you're already familiar with, that might serve you 80% well, and then you're going to
Uh-huh.
have to maybe tailor that last 20%, right?
I think that's exactly right. And I mean, we've seen this, this isn't the first technology transformation or the first new technology to the banking industry, right? So we've seen uh, an evolution of how we manage new risks.
Mm-hmm.
This is just coming so much faster. I think
Right.
that's part of the challenge. Um, and so it will be. I do think we have some foundations that are strong, but this is different and new, and um, I appreciate the scariness of it, right? And so, to your point, Kiah, we do need to be thoughtful around it, and ultimately, we do own that risk,
Yeah.
and so we will be thoughtful about it. But I also think there's a risk if we don't lean into it and don't deploy it. I mean, we won't be able to deliver the experiences that our customers are used to. We won't be able to make decisions quickly enough. We won't be able to personalize and advise our customers in the way that we could be able to. And so I think there's we certainly have to be thoughtful and manage and mitigate those risks, but we also have to acknowledge there's risk of not leaning in and moving forward.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of the use cases you're really excited about seem to involve small business lending, and it sounds like Emprise does a lot of small business lending. What are some of the biggest underserved or unserved areas where you guys haven't been able to execute in that you're and that you see as AI allowing that for, like some of the biggest underserved areas in banking?
Well, I think, I think generally speaking, we have seen, especially in the consumer credit space and some to some degree in the small business space, we have seen already the benefit of, I'll say, alternative underwriting
Yeah.
capabilities, being able to expand the service to previously underserved segments. I hope that continues.
Mhm.
I think as we continue to have better tools, as we think about being able to do cash flow underwriting even better, as we think about being able to pull in even more information and data and build some of those capabilities, most of that originated outside of the banking industry, right? And I hope that we're able to continue to help
Yeah.
support, foster, and broaden those efforts.
I love that. There's so much that when you collapse down, I feel like small business lending is an excellent example of this, Matt, where unlike consumer, that can almost be like automatically you can get a decision because we have lots of data and it's very structured. Small business and commercial lending is a much more like conveyor belt-ish. No, you need human judgment. It depends, edge cases, et cetera, et cetera. But now actually we're collapsing down that the lift that humans have to invest in this and the time that it takes to get a decision by virtue of being able to turn on some of those kind of AI components. Like maybe you can't use an ML model to automatically score something because again, in small business for sure it depends, but with enough data and enough decisions made over time, actually we might get close, right? A throwback to your institutional memory. Like, what if Emprise has a record of all the small business or commercial loans they've ever done? Actually, if one comes our way, do we have enough insight to be able to make an almost, automatic, an almost real time decision? And I think that's just going to keep compounding and compounding as more data is made available or created by being able to implement agentic capabilities.
I think we will absolutely get there, Alex. I don't know what the time frame is, right? And some of these things take longer than you think they will, but I think we will absolutely get there. The other thing that I get really excited about, and Kia, this is not an underserved, this is broad
Sure.
consumer, but I think I think we will see a dramatic enhancement in um, the service that is available to
Mm.
consumers. And when I say that, I really think about like what is a full financial planning capability in real time
Yes.
where you can simply sit there and ask it, I need a new car. How much can I spend? Um, Look at my mortgage. Is there a better option out there?
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, I want to retire at 62, not 65. How does that change what I need to be doing today? So it will be a dynamic financial plan. Think of it as like a high level financial planner or CFO that is on call 24/7 for every single individual in this country. And I guess I just personally feel like personal finance is a complex topic. I was talking with somebody just the other day, like who's in the banking space, and we're talking about um, social security, and when you start taking your required distributions, and I mean there is a whole complex a decision point in there. This is just one example. A complex decision point in there for even for folks who are very knowledgeable about it. It's complex, and so
Yeah.
how do we help each and every individual navigate those really challenging spots in life that happen frequently. And then what really gets me excited is so you have this dynamic, real time, personalized plan. People can ask questions. It will help them navigate based
Right.
on whatever is happening in their life. Then you automate it, then it actually does it for you. And obviously, there will need to be the right level of permissioning and everything. But I think we're very quickly getting to a spot where it just does it for you
Mhm.
based on your preferences and your desired outcomes. And think about the better outcomes and the reduction in stress
Yeah.
that should lead to. And I guess I get excited about being able to power those sorts of experiences for consumers at scale.
Amazing. Matt, I feel like you are the perfect optimist, thinking about all of these. And they are, I share with you this, like, oh my God, suddenly we can democratize access in a way that was not previously technologically possible, and that gets me so excited as well. I guess I'd ask on the flip side, through all of this work, this experimentation, this testing, this learning, this kind of human-centered approach that you've taken, what have you learned? Which banking problems have you learned AI cannot magically, instantaneously make disappear?
Yeah. Well, I think about our business. There is a lot about our business that is deterministic, right? I mean, you think about the interest calculations, you think about the processes that we work through, um, that really are. I mean, you have to make sure you get the same answer with the same set of facts every single time, right?
Hmm.
You cannot have model drift. You cannot. Um, you do not want to interject um, AI into some of those things. So I think about really um, some of the foundational capabilities of the banking industry. You know, I don't see um, I don't see artificial intelligence really solving the fundamental uh, kind of platform issue. I think it can influence, enhance. I think there's a lot it can do around it, but at the end of the day, you have to have a platform that works and can calculate interest
Yeah.
reliably, right? And,
Amen.
and so again, I think there's a lot that can be done around that, a lot that can be done around that. Um, but you still have to have that reliability in your platform. The other thing I would say is, uh, you know, I have not found culture to be very susceptible to artificial intelligence. That is still how do we lead and how do we build
Yeah.
teams and how do we help our people kind of walk through a transformation, and that is um, a human led endeavor.
I'm sorry you can't automate change management, we gotta that's a very human manual experience that probably is, no amount of AI magic can change, right?
I'm pretty optimistic about what AI will be able to influence over time. Change management is a purely leadership, human
Yeah,
experience.
that's so funny.
What advice would you give to bankers, who are listening to you and are kind of like, um, they're, I don't know, 5 steps behind you on this journey, or maybe they're where you were in, like, between 2018 and 2021?
I think my advice would be try it. Try it yourself. Like, get Claude. We're not a Claude shop. I'm a Claude shop. I happen to use Cowork. I mean, download Claude, use Cowork. Um, ask some of your friends or your kids what they use it for. Just try it.
Yeah.
Try it in your personal life. Uh, Try it. If you're writing something, if you're researching something, um, ask it to do more than you ever think it could, and see what comes back. And then you'll start to learn what are the edges and what can it do well and what doesn't it do so well. To me, what was really helpful was just rolling up my sleeves and trying it myself, and pushing myself to
Sure.
try things that I wouldn't have normally um, tried to do with it. And then you start to learn. I mean, so a great example. Um, we have uh, we have an embedded banking business,
Yeah.
and so we embed our products in other customer experiences. And so I just built a demo. We were having an internal conversation about what products we could uh, build into this particular prospect's experience. So I took a screenshot of the page that it would show up on, and then I just started building in a lending product. It was I think it was a line of credit product. I don't even remember, and then it walked through the flow that one of their customers would see if they clicked on the button. So you make the button look pretty. You think about what it might say, how they might entice a customer to go down that path. And then I think in this example, there were three screens. One was pre-filled because we knew they had data on the customer that they could pre-fill. And Kia, that took me 12 minutes.
Nice.
12
Was
minutes.
your heart racing the entire time you built this? Were you
It
like,
was. Oh
like,
yeah. I
were
was
you
like,
like, can I even do this? Like,
both from is this allowed? And oh my goodness, this is going to change everything, right? Now, um, and what is, the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A, a demo, an actual video of what it looks like is worth 10,000 words. I don't, like the power of the visual
yeah.
is undeniable, because then they can envision, oh, that's my site. That's what it looks like. Oh, our customer only has to fill out these three forms, or these
Hmm.
three lines.
Hmm.
Oh, and then they choose A, B, or C. Like it was it facilitated a really powerful conversation
Hmm.
that just describing it in a PowerPoint deck doesn't do.
That's amazing.
Well, last episode, Alex gave me a little bit of homework, and I did a way less intense version of what you did. She asked me to connect my Claude integrations. I'm not even this is so bad. I'm gonna use the wrong vocab words for all of this, but
No, this is great.
um, so I think I connected my Gmail and my Google Docs, and I'm not like a Google Docs person. I am a Microsoft Word person. I'm so sorry to reveal that. Um but what what I was and the challenge was like to automate something with those integrations. And so the thing I decided to kind of automate, and we're like still in the process of, is I put transcripts of my interviews, so I record these interviews for accuracy and because I can't form new memories. I put them in my Claude or my Google Docs, and then connected that folder to Claude. And I said, one of the things I do, and it just helps me, but it's like probably not a necessary step, is I clean up the filler words of my transcripts, which just makes it a little easier to see the quote the way it's supposed to be. And then I definitely would clean it up if it's going into the article, right? So all direct quotes would be kind of cleaned up from that filler word perspective. So I had Claude build me a tool to clean up my filler words, which I was doing through a control F replace, like in Microsoft Word. That's what I would do. I would spend like, I don't know, 10 minutes doing that. So Claude did that. And then and then I asked Claude to build me a tool that when I say I want to like go through all my transcripts and send me everything that is about the history of the master account, which is an article I'm working on. So every person who has spoken to me about the history of the master account, it should pull that information. And then that would go, like, I would probably, right now I'm still manually building the outline, but that would be in the history of the master account section of my article. And then from there, that's like, I'm trying to think about all the things I do that can be automated in a way that like wouldn't take away from the experience of reading, or take away from like my voice, but are the building blocks that allow me to do the writing itself and just kind of like compress all that time. I haven't done this yet. I haven't done the second part yet because I'm not at that part in this process. But what's really useful is I do like 5 interviews on a topic, right? And then I'm going to like have multiple series. So I can't remember to like go check 5 different transcripts of like what did everyone say about the history of the master account. Now, obviously I'll go into that transcript for like more specific stuff, but we're just trying to knock out like the 80% of the article that is the outline, and then I would take what they said and kind of rework it, paraphrase, but like I'm trying to that's like the goal that I did this week is build my little transcriber correcting tool and then my little search tool for my outlines. Also, I like the problems that I run into are like, sorry, we're just not able to write into your Google Doc or Google like folder. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not able to write in the folder? Open a damn doc and just copy and paste it into there.
We'll get it there.
So I have two homework assignments for you, Kiah. You're not going to have me back on your podcast. So I have 2 homework assignments for you, both related to what you're working on already, I think. But they'll stretch you, I think, in 2 slightly different directions. First, as you were talking about your transcripts, build a second brain. And by that, I mean, so you'll have your corpus of transcripts. Instead of having to go ask about the master account, what you can do is have Claude maintain live documents that are basically summaries around all of the themes that you think about. And so then anytime you put a new transcript in, it will update wherever is appropriate, and it will keep, if you ask it, it will keep sources at the bottom so you can quickly go see those if you want. But it will have a live kind of commentary on any or all of those themes that you want at your fingertips at any point in time. It also helps. You can also then use it to pull themes across. Like, what have you been talking about most recently? You can overlay that across developments in the regulatory environment or kind of external things. So think about that. There's some really good writing. I happen to be on X a little bit. I probably spend too much time there. But there are some really good articles around a second brain or some of those things that may help you go down that path.
I can't believe you just said build a second brain for my second homework assignment.
What? Yes. Well, so Kiah, here's the thing. Ask Claude to do it for you. Just ask it. Say, here's Matt asked me to do this. Help walk me through it, and it will do it. The second thing, and you may already have this, the second thing is go build something. And my recommendation would be go build I'll say a web app or a website that hosts all of your writing. And it may be just for you. I'm not suggesting that you need to share it, but the exercise of building something that is, I'll say kind of standalone and sustainable is interesting, because then you learn GitHub, you learn how to host a website. There's some other integrations in that space that you learn. It's less about the design. It's more just about how are you connecting in that ecosystem.
I was on Zanga in 2006. I can't believe you're telling me to go build something. I learned all my rudimentary code then.
It's going to be a little bit easier for you this time.
This is like AP level stuff, and I was hoping for a.
But you have your tutor. It's Claude. It's the perfect tutor.
Is this my homework? Like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on my process? And is there literally any other homework that you can give me that's not the hardest things that I've heard in a hot second?
I love the second brain one, Matt. I think we are gonna keep that one as a theme through these, because Kiah, it sounds so hard, but it is actually easier than you think. And like, I feel like that might be one of
Okay.
the takeaways of this session with Matt that you've been so clear about is like, one, roll up your sleeves and try stuff. Two, the technology is getting better and better and better and better. And like, you know, people are joking. They're like, oh, you could just build an app that displaces Salesforce over the weekend. But like, it's not really out of the realm of the possible anymore. Like, you could actually, of course, there's so much behind like maintaining something like that moving forwards, but you can just build
Yeah.
things now that were absolutely not possible over a weekend 12 months ago. So we're going to do that one, Matt, for sure. For sure.
I can't wait to see the outcome.
To build an agent of record AI brain. I think like
That's a good
it's
idea.
like hard because it's like my whole brain. Sorry, I have so many dumb thoughts in my brain. We can't be putting this
Some
stuff
of
on the
brain.
internet.
Yeah. Awesome.
And now I'm afraid I'm not going to be asked back. So uh, you'll have to report back, Kiah, on the homework, or I guess I'll listen next week,
Yeah.
or next episode.
You'll just have to keep listening to find out what happens and what happens to my first brain when I try to build this second brain. Sure.
Yes. Terrific. Terrific.
Well, Matt and Alex, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. I think it's like honestly such a great conversation for us to have, especially as we go through this journey, to kind of have you as this optimist, you as this tinker, you as someone who's doing the actual work. It's very inspiring to keep that in mind, because I feel very daunted, and I know that maybe listeners are feeling that as well.
Well, I appreciate you having me on your podcast. Honored to be here. Always enjoy talking about the optimistic side of artificial intelligence. So I look forward to continuing to hear your thoughts and your episodes.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt, for sharing all the work you've been doing. And I know a lot of bankers are going to learn from this and build themselves a lot of exciting things that help their customers.